The diner was quiet that morning, that made the clinking of coffee cups sound almost too loud. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching on the chrome edge of the tables and bouncing of the glass salt shakers. At the corner booth sat Walter Branson, an 81-year-old Korean War veteran who came here every morning at exactly 8:15. He wore his favorite flannel shirt, faded at the elbows, and a pair of heavy boots that had seen more winters. The old neon diner sign flickered against the morning mist, humming like an old jukebox that refused to quit. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, bacon, and quiet dignity. Walt Jenkins, 81, sat in his usual booth by the window, a Korean War veteran who'd seen more than his fair share of darkness. He wore his faded bomber jacket and that same humble smile that made him a favorite among the regulars. Every morning at 7:30 sharp, he'd shuffle in with his cane, order black coffee and scrambled eggs, and tip the waitress with a silver dollar. But that morning would be different. The bell over the door jingled, and in walked Trouble, a big man with tattoos creeping up his neck and a sneer that could sour milk. He was one of those guys who walked like the world owed him something. He barked an order at the waitress, slammed his hand on the counter when she didn't move fast enough, and laughed ooh loud, the kind of laugh that made everyone else go quiet. When Walt, out of pure habit, turned to look, the thug caught his gaze. "What you staring at, old man?" he snarled. Walt just shook his head. "Nothing worth my time." The diner went dead silent. The thug's face twisted with anger. Before anyone could move, he strode across the floor and slapped Walt so hard that his glasses flew off the table. The sound echoed, the kind of sound that made your stomach drop. Walt's hands trembled as he reached for his glasses, blood trickling from his cheek. But instead of anger, he looked up at the man and said quietly, "You must be hurting bad to act like that, son." The thug froze. Nobody had ever called him son like that, not with calm, not with pity. The waitress wanted to intervene, but Walt waved her off. Slowly standing with his cane. "I fought in a war," he said softly, "so men like you could still find their way home." The thug scoffed, turned, and spat on the floor. "You don't know a damn thing about me, old man." Quote. And that's when the bell above the door jingled again. A gust of air swept in, followed by the rumble of engines outside. A dozen men in leather vests with the Hells Angels emblem on their backs stepped off their bikes. The man who walked in first was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that burned like fire and calm that demanded attention. His name was Jake Jenkins, Walt's son. "Hey, Dad," Jake said, spotting him instantly. "Didn't think you'd already be famous before breakfast." The thug turned pale. "This your old man?" Jake asked, stepping closer. "Yeah," Walt replied, brushing his sleeve. "But don't do what I think you're gonna do. Man's already lost his way enough." Jake looked from his father to the trembling thug. For a moment, you see, old hear nothing but the ticking of the diner clock. The bikers behind him shifted, ready for blood. But Jake raised a hand. "No," he said. "We don't fight cowards. We teach them." He pulled out a stool, sat across from the thug, and nodded to the waitress. "Coffee for him. On me." The thug blinked, unsure what was happening. Jake leaned in. "You just hit an 81-year-old war vet. The only reason you're still breathing is because that vet happens to be my father, and because he still believes there's good in you. So here's your shot. You're gonna sit down, drink that coffee, and tell us what happened to make you this bitter." The thug hesitated, eyes darting around, but something in Jake's tone made him obey. He sat. His hands shook as he picked up the cup. I just got out of prison," he muttered. "Got nowhere to go. Lost my kid. She don't even know who I am anymore." His voice cracked. "Guess I wanted the world to hurt like I do." The diner was quiet again, not from fear this time, but from something else, compassion. Walt reached over, his old hand steady, and placed it on the man's arm. "Son, it's never too late to start over. But you can't do it by hurting others. You want your kid to see the man you were, not the monster you've become." The thug's shoulders slumped. Tears welled up in his eyes, surprising even himself. The waitress brought a fresh plate of eggs and toast and set it in front of him without a word. Jake clapped him on the shoulder. "Eat. Then come outside. We'll find you work. You're not alone anymore." Hours later, when the bikes finally roared away, the thug stood outside the diner, staring after them. He wasn't the same man who had walked in that morning. Weeks passed. Locals started seeing that same man back at the diner, this time wiping down tables, fixing leaky faucets, smiling at customers. Turns out Jake had found him a job at a garage run by the Hells Angels, a place where broken men rebuilt not just engines, but themselves. And as for Walt, he still came in every morning at 7:30 sharp. Only now, when he ordered his coffee, a strong hand would place it in front of him, along with a quiet, more